Hey everyone, and welcome back to MMA Alerts. Today, let's start with Conor McGregor being criticized in an interview. It was the fourth straight win for Joakim Buckley, who beat Nursultan Ruziboev by decision in the co-main event of a show in his hometown of St. Louis last weekend. The 11th-ranked welterweight has won 7 of his last 9 fights and is slowly becoming known as a dangerous rival at 170 pounds. During his statement after the fight, Numanza said something that made a lot of people look twice. At the press meeting after the fight, UFC President Dana White was asked if this fight would actually happen, and he gave a very short answer. After the game, Buckley was asked if he had a more realistic plan for his next match. Fans made fun of Buckley online for calling out the controversial. One fan seemed to like Gilbert Burns' choice a lot more, as he tweeted, even though Burns looked good against JDM. Buckley needs to go after Burns with all his might. Next, Dana White is asked to say something. Weightlifter Waldo Cortez Acosta was another fighter who had his hand raised at UFC St. Louis. A young boxer named Robles de Spain beat Salsa Boy by decision, but it looks like Dana White wasn't too pleased with his performance. Fans were quick to call White out for what he said. One tweeted. A well-known MMA writer named Luke Thomas agreed and replied with fans on social media seemed to agree that White wanted Robles de Spain to keep winning in the heavyweight class, stop a hype train and break up right away. Dana is mad because he thought he had a money-making machine. What a terrible take, he spoiled. His heavyweight hype train was found out. Oh, your brand new toy broke, make a noise about it, Dana. Your son Robles might need to take wrestling class at least once before he fights. Robles de Spain sent Josh Parisian to the canvas and knocked him out in his first fight at UFC 299 in March. Before that, the Cuban Olympic Taekwondo fighter had won all 4 of his career MMA fights by knockout in the first round. Cortez Acosta was fighting for the 6th time in the cage. He is now on a 3-fight winning streak, having already knocked out Lukas Brzezinski and Andrzej Jablowski in the past year. Next, a UFC fighter tells bad news at UFC 205 in St. Louis this past weekend. Brazilian veteran Diego Figueira beat Polish UFC star Matus Rebei very badly. Robesti's 16-fight winning run ended when Figueira stopped him in the last 10 seconds of the 3rd round. It was his first loss in the octagon. The ex-contestant on the Dana White Contender Series posted a picture of his hurt face on Instagram with the words, "Live fans of the UFC first noticed Rebei when he submitted Rodrigo Lidio in the first round of their Contender Series match." He then kept up his good form by beating Nick Fire in his first official fight inside the cage. After that, in the second half of 2023, he beat Loic Razbov and Roosevelt Roberts with 2 great wins. In 2014, he lost his last game. A lot of fans thought that Figueira, who is 39 years old, would be another step in the rise of the Polish star. While Figueira had been out of action for a year, he knocked out Michael Johnson. Before that, he had lost 3 straight UFC lightweight fights. On June 1st, he will fight Polish star Michael Olazukczuk in his 2nd UFC fight, which will also happen this week. When in 2020, Trailblazer won 5 straight fights at 185 pounds, but after losing to Derek Brunson and Marvin Vettori back-to-back, he moved up to welterweight. After losing to Jack Della Maddalena and Michael Venom Page not long ago, he has won 4 of his last 6 fights in that weight class. It looks like he will be moving back up to middleweight soon. Olazukczuk has had wins and losses in the cage since 2017. His most recent fight was at UFC 299 in March when he lost to Michel Figueira. Also in the world of fighting, the fight between heavyweight great Andrei Arlovski and Martin Budash has been moved to UFC 303, which will be held before Conor McGregor vs. Michael Chandler. There was a plan for the fight to happen in the Peak on June 15th, but it will now be part of a huge pay-per-view event on June 29th during International Fight Week. Arlovski, a 45-year-old former heavyweight champion, will try to get back at Budash, a Slovak boxer who was stopped by Shimon Gaziev in his last fight in December. After that, Sharamagomedov calls out a UFC player. When the UFC comes to Saudi Arabia on June 22nd, Sharamagomedov, a middleweight newbie, was hoping to keep winning to get off to a good start in the UFC. But it looks like Bullet will need to find someone new to dance with. Portieri was kicked out of UFC 301 in Rio de Janeiro just over a week ago during the first round against Michel Pereira after Pereira did some amazing acrobatics. It looks like she will not be going to Riyadh anymore. At this point, Magomedov is interested in Pereira and wants him to take Portieri's place for the important event next month. He said on Twitter, "You damn acrobat, Michel Pereira, you're the reason I lost my friend." There's no show at UFC, even though everyone knows you can do backflips now. You did something wrong, so you need to be punished. Not long ago, the UFC said that Pereira would be fighting Roman Dolezet at UFC Louisville next month. He said on Instagram, "I didn't agree to this fight, which was a shot down." The man works out with me every day at Extreme Couture's PI. I haven't agreed to it yet, but he has. I don't think now is the time to fight him. He should take care of himself if he agreed to it. I was shocked when he said yes. In my mind, he's a friend and an exercise partner. I see that I'm not. It was also reported that the UFC has decided to hold another event in Saudi Arabia after the show next month. This was also confirmed by Dana White at the news conference in St. Louis this past weekend after the fight. Deals that last longer than your first event don't happen very often. How did this happen? Come around that they wanted to keep doing business with you. It began, though. Power slap it up. They had power slap in mind. After talking to them for a while, I went in and fought them again. A party is being talked about, which could happen later this year or next year. Will that be a pay-per-view event, or is it just another fight night for them? Fight night. Yes, both nights are fight nights. Finally, Dana White speaks out today about Jon Jones. It's getting closer and closer for UFC heavyweight king Jon Jones to fight again at UFC 295 in November. He was set to defend his title for the first time against previous champion Steven Miocic. But 2 weeks before the fight, he tore his pectoral tendon, which has stopped him from working out since. He wasn't there, so British heavyweight contender Tom Aspinall stepped in at the last minute to be the main event at Madison Square Garden. He beat Sergey Pavlovich in the first round to win the temporary heavyweight title. During the following weeks and months, Aspinall begged Jones to fight him again when he came back later this year. On the other hand, it looks like Jones and the UFC are sticking to their plans to fight Miocic first. Jones recently caused more trouble on X when he made a poll asking fans whether they would rather see him fight Aspinall or Alex Pereira, who is currently the light heavyweight champion, after the steep fight is over. A lot of Jones's fans yelled at him and said he was trying to avoid Aspinall, but Jones kept pushing for a fight with Poatan. After the fight at UFC St. Louis, Dana White said that Jones will definitely be fighting Miocic when he comes back. He also seemed to say that the fight would happen in Madison Square Garden, which is where it was originally planned. In March 2023, Jones beat Ciryl Gane by submission in the first round to win the belt. If the Miocic fight goes through in November as planned, it will be his first fight in 20 months and third fight in 5 years. Jon Jones first won the light heavyweight title when he beat Mauricio Shogun in 2011. His only loss was by knockout to Matt Hamill in 2009, which is still the only one on his record. A welterweight fight is being set up between Colby Covington and Charles Oliveira. Colby Covington said in a recent podcast that he wants to fight Charles Oliveira next. This comes after Oliveira said he wanted to move up to welterweight. This is what Colby said. The shocking news comes from Israel Adesanya. In a new video on his YouTube account, Izzy said that he's back to training and getting better at grappling. He also said that he's taking things